Hello, BookTube. I know it may look from the thumbnail of the video in your feed like I haven't moved at all since the last video that I made, but I swear, as comfortable a surmise as that might usually be for me, in this case, I did. The last video was made before I left. Then I left. I went on adventures, and now I'm back. I uh, I got on the subway here in Boston. I met muscular teenagers. I walked around. I mailed some packages. Had a little lunch, and also also a little tragedy. a few weeks ago, a few weeks ago, that knit beanie that I wear for my cool hip Friday AM readings. A few weeks ago, I was wearing that when I met a pit bull on the sidewalk. Someone was walking their pit bull, and I did what I always do. I meet new dogs. I squat down to their eye level and I greet them with my face, not my hands. And I did that, and he was a little surprised, and he sort of walked inside the area of my knees and my head and my shoulders, and then a minute later he went nuts with happiness. It's a phenomenon. If you've ever walked with me on the streets of Boston, you will know what I'm talking about. A minute later, when he realized that he liked me, he went nuts, and it's always a little bit of surprise to the owners, but that's all right because I'm not really concerned with them. When he went nuts with happiness, he impulsively grabbed one of the tassels of that knit beanie and snapped it right in two, bit it right in two, and swallowed the tassel and just went and stared at me like, "Can I do it again?" And I kissed his big face and I kissed his forehead, and his owner was very apologetic, and it was no big deal. And I think I might have even filmed a video with one tassel down, the other only partially there. And then today, I was walking around, and there was another dog, and of course, so I went over to greet and to cuddle and to face smooch, to the intense embarrassment of my boys. It embarrasses them no end. They think it's cool in one way because some of these dogs are unfriendly. They couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. And you couldn't approach them at their eye level and smooch their face without any buy or leave. It wouldn't work. And some of the owners know that and are clearly surprised. So the boys think that part of it is kind of cool, but the rest of it, oh God, embarrasses them no end. So I did that again. This was with a big mutt with a beautiful orange face and white toes. And I went up to him and I smooched his face and I said hello, and when he realized that he liked me, he went nuts and his whole body exploded, and he grabbed the hat right off my head and started doing that classic dog demolish play thing, and actually did tear it to shreds right in front of me. While his owner was saying, "Shap down, oh Shap down." I was and I was laughing my head off, and the the it was all just fine once the dog was done. He once the hat was dead, he looked at me like, "What else can you do?" And I said, "I have to go. I'm glad I could make you happy." And when we were walking away, one of my teenagers said, "Dude, what are you going to do about that dog? You don't have a hat anymore." And I said, "Well, what do you expect me to do? Sue him? Maybe ask for his allowance money?" To which the response, of course, was, "Dude, hush, just asking a question." So that was I had an adventure as well, all in the time between the last identical looking video and this identical looking video. So now I don't have a hat, and a certain retired book nerd is going to have to make me one. But when I got back, there were books waiting. That was the long Grandpa Simpson ramble. On my day, we wore an onion on our belt, which was the style at the time. There are more books, so I thought we'd open them together. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to go below 50 here in Boston this winter, so I'll be okay without a hat. Let's see what this one is. What can we do? What's the first one going to be? A good start? A bad start? Is it going to be a made-up story about upper middle-class Connecticut divorce? Is it going to be a slim volume of poetry, accordion, apricot, I defy? Snow, snow, sewer grating. Let's see. No, it's not any of those things. It's a Regency romance called The Duke. Oh, oh, oh my. All right. This comes out in early February, but I will be reading it as soon as I turn off the camera. Let's see what the adventure is this time, shall we? Strong as a Viking. There were no weak Vikings. Handsome as Adonis. Rich as Midas. Colin Cole Talmadge, Duke of Trenwith, is the stuff that legends are made of. He's the English Empire's golden son until fate has its way with him. Cole's family is killed, and his closest comrade betrays him on the battlefield, leaving him gravely injured. But Cole is not one to dwell on misfortune. Clearly not Irish. I dwell on misfortune every day. He's a man of duty, honor, and desire. And now he's ready for the fight of his lifetime. What will that fight be, do you think? It maybe involves a woman? Let's see, shall we? Imogen Pritchard. How come none of you are called Imogen? You're all called Jen. Imogen Pritchard is a beautiful lass who works in a hospital by day and is a serving maid at night. Okay. I'm enjoying myself too much to point out historical problems, so we'll just move on. Years ago, when she was young and penniless, she ended up spending a scandalous night with Cole, whose tormented soul was matched only by his earth-shattering passion. Definitely not Irish. Imogen entered a marriage of convenience, one that left her a wealthy widow. But she's never forgot Cole. Now that her long-lost lover has turned up in her hospital, injured and with no memory of her... Oh, there's amnesia too? Okay. Imogen is torn. Is it a blessing or a curse that their past remains a secret to Cole, even as his new passion for her leaves him wanting to protect and possess her at all costs? Oh, all right, well, that's called The Duke. And the good news is that I have my afternoon's reading, bumping everything else. Who cares about the friggin' Habsburg Empire? The bad news is this mail haul is almost certainly all downhill from here. Let's forge on and see. Could surprise me, you never know. Let's see here. What's this next one? Oh, okay. Okay, fantastic. This is something I did not request. This is by Neil Marr. It's called Apollo in the Age of Aquarius, which is going to strike a lot of you as gibberish because you were born in the 1990s. The summer of 1969 saw astronauts land on the moon for the first time and hippie hordes descend on Woodstock for a legendary music festival. The memories. Rolling around in the mud with Deb. Back when we had our whole lives in front of us. For Neil Marr, the conjunction of these two era-defining events is not entirely coincidental, and yet it is. So he's going to spend a large part of this book lying, but that's all right. Apollo in the Age of Aquarius shows how the celestial aspirations of NASA's Apollo space program were tethered to terrestrial concerns, from civil rights struggle to the anti-war movement to environmentalism to feminism to counterculture. Okay. None of those things were thought of in NASA control rooms in 1969. Not one of them. So this is going to be interesting anyway. With its lavishly funded mandate to send a man to the moon, Apollo became a litmus test for 1960s culture wars. It had nothing to do with culture wars. Nothing. Maybe the author is. Maybe he's going to make a great point. I would be happy. It's not outside the realm of possibility, like some of the books that we see here, where the premise is simply flawed and nothing good can result from it. This could be thought-provoking, if I'd only stop interrupting. Many people believed it would reinvigorate a country that had lost its way, while for others it represented a colossal waste of resources needed to solve pressing problems at home. Yet the author also discovers synergies between the space program and political movements of the era. All right, okay. Who is Neil Marr when he's at home? Now I want to know that. associate professor of history at the New Jersey Institute of Technology and Rutgers University, Newark. Okay, all right. So this is a passion project, and those are always fun to read because this isn't him being picked by Harvard University Press or Oxford and told, hey, we need a 200-page biography of Rutherford B. Hayes. This is something he's wanted to do for a long time. So that, all right, this is due in late March. All right, I'm on board. I'll give it a try. Let's see here. What's the next one? Oh, sorry, baby girl. Oh, good girl. Let's see here. What have we got here? Oh my. Okay. This is due in April. This is a Steve book. There's actually, considering my fascination with NASA, these are all three been Steve books so far. This is My Fellow Soldiers by Andrew Carroll. The subtitle is General John Pershing and the Americans Who Helped Win the Great War. And that is Pershing on the cover in one of his happier moments. What I wouldn't give for a 900-page biography of Blackjack Pershing. What a book that would be. Here's hoping that somewhere in the bowels of some university that one is in the works, because there hasn't been one in a long time, and there should be. A thoroughly remarkable, if reprehensible character, someone that there really ought to be a life of. But let's see here. What have we got? Based on an astonishing collection of letters and diaries harvested by Andrew Carroll and the Center for American War Letters. Oh. Andrew Carroll, the Center for American War. What did he? He did something very impressive. Right, he did a thing called War Letters, which was a project as well as a book. I'll leave the link down below. Anyway. My Fellow Soldiers tells the story of the American experience in World War I with General John Pershing in the foreground against a landscape of extraordinary voices to convey the grassroots perspective of American doughboys, war nurses, and their families with intimacy and power. Deb and I shipped out. And we didn't come back with all our bits in the right places either. Okay, so this is both an epistolary account of the American experience in war and also a kind of prismatic biography of Pershing. I'm worried now that it will fail in both and trying to do both, but we'll see. We'll see. Very interesting. Then we can move on to this big thing. What is this? Oh, fantastic. Oh, we're doing just fine. This is something we've seen on this channel before. This comes out in early February. This is the finished copy of Age of Anger by Pankaj Mishra. His book about the disruptive present and the fact that anger seems to be motivating governmental change all across the world in a way, in a synergistic way that the world has not seen in quite some time. I would say since 1848. I think he puts it a little later than that. He shows that as the world became modern, those who were unable to enjoy its promises of freedom, stability, and prosperity were increasingly susceptible to demagogues, and their susceptibility is based on technology. It's the last thing you'd think, but it's true. Demagogues tap into that resentment. That resentment is so strong because the people who don't have those modern benefits of, what was it again? Freedom, stability, and prosperity are completely connected to the people who do, unlike in the past. If you live in Aleppo, if you're a teenager in Aleppo in 2012 and you can hear the tanks out in the suburbs, you have your cell phone. You know that teenagers in Minneapolis don't experience that. And you want what they experience. You want the fun. You want the prosperity. You want, the latest Beyonce album when it releases. You don't want to have to buy it black market in Croatia. You don't want any of the, if you're an 18-year-old girl, living in Pakistan as pretty much an unpaid slave of all the men around you, unlike in previous centuries, you can see that 18-year-old girls in Oshkosh don't live that way, and you don't want to live that way. You want to live the way they do. It adds to the resentment that is at the core of this book. But I should probably finish this sentence. The many who came late to this new world, or who were left or pushed aside or behind, reacted in horrifyingly similar ways, with intense hatred of invented enemies, attempts to recreate an imaginary golden age, and self-empowerment through spectacular violence. I'm a big fan of this author. I think he's one of our best public intellectuals, one of the only people left to whom you could unironically append that name. So I will gobble up the book. I might not even agree with him all the way, but he's one of those people you really want to read. And then we got this thing. It's in black. So I'm just, if it's in black, it's probably a doom and gloom YA teen book in which, let's say, all the characters kill themselves. Oh no, it's not. It's a thriller with a really nice cover. Jeez, American book covers are almost never this nice. Look at that. I see you right up into the escalator of a gigantic subway. Okay, this is, what is this? This is some sort of thriller. It comes out on February 1st. Let's see. You do the same thing every day. Well, don't pick on Steve. You know exactly where you're going. You're not alone. Okay, that's the nerve-tingling premise behind Claire McIntosh's second novel. That's not nerve-tingling. I know exactly where I am. I do the same thing every day. I'm never alone. This was a #1 London Times bestseller in the author's native UK. All right, is that true? Those of you in the UK, I see you. You've had a different cover. Was it a bestseller? Did people talk about it? Like McIntosh's stunning debut, I Let You Go. Oh, I read I Let You Go. It was boring. Maybe the publicist meant to write boring and mistyped and wrote stunning. Her new thriller kicks into high gear from the first chapter and never lets up. Perfectly paced and filled with twists and turns, ICU takes the comfort of a daily routine and spins it out in unexpected directions. Maybe the main character loses her beanie to a dog. I don't think I'd get us very far in terms of page count, but it'd be traumatizing all the same. He just tore it apart right in front of me. And then he looked at me like, I'm so happy I just did that. You must be proud of me. And I was. When Zoe Walker discovers her own picture in the local newspaper's classified ads, she's shocked. A photo from her Facebook page accompanies a listing for a website called thefindtheone.com. All Zoe's efforts to discover what the ad means lead to dead ends, and when a second woman whose picture appeared in a similar ad is assaulted, when a third woman is murdered, Zoe's unease turns to fear and paranoia. The only thing the three have in common is their daily commute on the London subway system. This book is going to fearmonger about mindless daily routines. Is there no place left for Steve? All right, and then I don't know if I mentioned we end with a box, which is always good. You always want to end a mail haul with a box. Let's see what this is. Oh, it's Manivores. Oh, it's this. It's Angry Robot. Yes, it's so I must be on their list. Oh, that's fantastic. I love getting on lists. I really do. Because I miss things. I request a lot of books, but I miss things. So this, you might remember a mail haul earlier where I was on the list and I got a bunch of science fiction. And I'm not I'm not Thomas at SFF 180. I'm not Chris Rhodes. I don't get all the science fiction. I don't request a lot of it. I know I'm not going to get to it, and publishers don't send me a lot. So this is great. So the first one is Dr. Potter's Medicine Show by Eric Scott Fischel, who writes novels and speculative historical fiction and lives in Montana's Bitterroot Mountains. And I don't know if you can tell from this picture, but he's had his cup of smug today. Dr. Alexander Potter, disgraced Civil War surgeon. I was one of those when Deb met me. Now huckster and seller of snake oil, travels the wet roads of the Pacific Northwest with a disheartened company of strongmen, illusionists, fortune-tellers, and musical whores. Sounds like a party at Adam's house. Memento Mori. I could swear. Strongmen, illusionists, fortune-tellers, and musical whores. Just about covers everybody. Under the quiet command of the mysterious, merciless, and murderous Lyman Rhodes, they entertain the masses whilst hawking Chuck-a-Saw Sagwa Tonic, a vital elixir touted to cure all ills, both physical and spiritual, although for a few unfortunate customers, the Sagwa offers something much, much worse. Fantastic. Okay, so that's I can never tell with Angry Robot if these are new or if they're reprints. I think they're all new, and that's great. Once upon a time, fascinating sounding new fantasy and science fiction came out in mass market, and you could buy it without bankrupting yourself and take a chance on the author. So that sounded fascinating. So the next one is Brett Savory, and this is A Perfect Machine. He recently stepped down as co-publisher with the World Fantasy and British Fantasy award-winning Chizine Publications, so he could dedicate more time to writing. He's written a bunch of stuff. And he's the drummer for the metal band Old Time Moonshine, and he lives in Peterborough, Ontario, with his wife. And there he is. Serious fellow. This looks like hard science fiction. What is this? Henry Killo is a member of a secret society called the Infernae Cutis, a runner with capital R, whose goal is to achieve full-body lead content. I could be mispronouncing all of these words. Me no speak English very well, I guess. He's chased through the city every day by hunters whose goal is to shoot the runners, with a threat to both sides that if they do not participate, through a mysterious force no one understands, one of their loved ones will simply vanish from the face of the earth. That wouldn't be a deal breaker with me. Rumors about what happens when a runner achieves ascension, but it has supposedly never happened before, so no one knows for sure, except that it has happened before, and it has happened again, this time to Henry Killo. Okay, that also sounds fascinating. And then we have a trade paperback. This is by K.W. Jeter, and it's called Infernal Devices, a classic novel of strangely different Victorian age from the inventor of steampunk. A classic novel, so is this a reprint? This is the George Dower Trilogy, Volume 1. It is a reprint from 1987. Good for them. Good for them. Infernal Devices. Oh, lovely cover. There's the Machine Man in a top hat up there. So this is celebrating 30 years of steampunk. I can't stand steampunk, but if this is a reprinted classic, I'll give it a try, especially since they were nice enough to send it. That's wonderful. When George Dower's father died, he left George his watchmaker's shop and much more. But George has little talent for watches and other infernal devices. When someone tries to steal an old artifact from the premises, George finds himself embroiled in a mystery of time travel, music, and sexual intrigue. Huh. Okay, great, fantastic. All right, well, this was a good haul, wasn't it? Here, let's go through them now in our now stereotypical way. There's ICU, in which routines are bad. There's My Fellow Soldiers, about General Pershing. There's Apollo in the Age of Aquarius, in which hippies go to the moon. There's Age of Anger by Pankaj Mishra, about our current disruptive era. There's Infernal Devices, a reprint of a steampunk classic. Steampunk sounds like the first steampunk classic. I'll have to ask the science fiction fans if they know. The Duke. Dr. Potter's Medicine Show. And Perfect Machine. Look at that. Huh? So there you go. And I will try my hardest to make sure that I am wearing different clothes for my next video. I'll see you soon, BookTube. Thank you.